Hello and welcome to Ruler Three's video review for Batman Arkham Origins, a third-person action-adventure game from Warner Brothers Studios Interactive. With me today is, once again, just Impressions. How are you doing?
Doing all right yourself?
I'm doing great. For those of you wondering where Sinister is, in the November update, there's a little bit of stuff there, as well as he's just having issues with gameplay at the moment, getting some of these. So anyway, let's go. I guess since this is the third game in the franchise, we should go into kind of our history with the franchise. Personally, I like the Batman Arkham games. I thought they've all been really good. I just the combat and storylines and all of them, I've enjoyed all of them. And Chris Hamill wins in the older ones. Not to say Troy Baker's not good in this one.
And Mark Hamill?
Or Mark Hamill, thank you. Troy Baker's good in this one, but Mark Hamill, yeah, and Kevin Conroy. Brought back some early memories from my animated series. But anyway, yeah, I like the older ones. I thought they were both really good. Impressions?
I played both, beat both. Arkham Asylum is probably like the closest I've ever gotten to platinuming a game. And yeah, likewise brought back memories from the animated series, and really when there have been so many attempts to make a Batman game, these two and now three really got them right.
Yeah.
And I think a credit to it also is that they came up with their own storyline. They're obviously all inspired by the comics and the animated series, but they're fairly unique, or they're fairly, they're made for the game, obviously.
Yeah, I remember when these games came out. These are like the only good Batman games for the most part. So anyway, let's get into the meat. So the story of this one's actually a prequel, hence the name Origins. It's Batman during his early days, and basically Black Mask decides, he's had enough of Batman and puts a very, very large bounty on his head, and a bunch of mercs and people try to, take down the Batman for that money. The most notable one that they show off all the time is Deathstroke, but you got Copperhead, Deadshot, Killer Croc, Joker is in this mix, although he's doing it for other reasons. There's just a bunch of more of the mercenary side of the Batman universe, and not the, normal ones you get. It's kind of all the side fun ones. And overall, I thought the storyline in this one, it was good for an origin story. Or not origin story, but, kind of a prequel thing. I felt everybody kind of fit with the storyline, and, I thought it all worked. At least where I'm at, everything's working really well, story-wise. I haven't had any real big issues with it. Impressions?
I've always had an issue whenever a franchise establishes itself 2 or 3 installments and then jumps backwards for a prequel, because for whatever, like, you have these 2 games and then you go back at an earlier point in that game's timeline, or that franchise's timeline, and the engine's better, the mechanics are better, and I don't know, that always just kind of took me out of it. But I guess in this case it works a little bit for Batman, because it is a point in his crime-fighting career where he's a little more inexperienced. And I remember you mentioning a weapon where you pretty much just win all the time. It could account for the fact that he's less experienced with combat and more reliant on his gadgets. I don't know. But as far as the story is concerned, I think it works pretty well, considering that it is an origin story. You face some of the earlier, lesser villains and all the lemmings that he kind of had to fight his way through before he became a real threat, and has drawn out all the A-list villains that we know from the movies and whatnot. I mean, just to clarify, Black Mask, was he always a Batman villain? I always kind of remembered him as a Nightwing villain.
Yeah, from what I know of Batman, he's always been a Batman villain. He's just, I think, more prominent with Nightwing half the time now, because he is just a, gangster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought that was a different city, but it makes sense. They alluded to him heavily in Arkham City, and I knew of him. I kind of thought he was going to show up eventually, but it turns out that was just a setup for the next game, or the previous game. Previous in the timeline.
One.
Next, yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, no, that's pretty much my impression of it. So.
All right, so let's get into gameplay. So, gameplay is, once again, if you played any of the previous ones, it's pretty much unchanged. You can glide around if you jump off high enough buildings, grapple to things. Free flow combat's back, where you have like a punch, a counter, daze, and a jump, gadget using stuff. They added a couple new enemy types in this one. I forget what they actually are, but there's 2 new ones that require, one can counter your counters, which is kind of fun, and I forget what the other one does. But on the whole, I thought, once again, the basic mechanics of this game still work. Everything from the previous ones, like I said, is pretty much untouched that I've noticed, and it's all good. Free flow combat's still probably one of the best things that ever happened to a Batman game. Impressions?
That's what I was gonna say. I think it took the best elements from Asylum and City. Obviously, the free flow, I'm in complete agreement with that. That's pretty much the best illustration I've ever seen, the implementation I've ever seen of Batman's fighting skill and being able to handle large groups. And not only can you just counter and punch, you can also integrate a lot of your weapons pretty seamlessly. Only a couple of them really interfering with your combos if you're working on the meter. What the city brought into the mix was literally the city that you could explore, and I thought that was. I mean, you had a pretty wide area to explore in Asylum, but it was very limited. In Arkham City, you could literally you had the entire city as your playground, and I like that they kind of brought that back in. And it helps that you have the fast travel now.
Mm-hmm.
Something new that I was kind of referring to earlier is the enemies that can counter your counters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, again, at the gaming level, it's just a new mechanic to make it harder for the player. But at the same time, I think it does account for Batman's inexperience at this point in his story. So it all works.
Yep. All right. And the next thing I want to go into is boss battles, which is, as much like the older games, it's always where the Batman franchise games have always kind of sucked a little more because they're always the same thing over and over. Origins fixes that a little bit, and the fight is no longer the same thing over and over again. It actually changes up the fights will change throughout itself instead of just offering the same. Once you figure out the main strategy, you just use that until they're dead. No, this one they actually have you do like multi phases and stuff. Boss battles are probably the one thing that actually improved in this game, in my opinion. And I enjoyed I've done a couple, and the ones I've done are really fun. Impressions? Have you done any?
Not just yet. I've been kind of having a little too fun with the playground environment.
Yeah, good old open world.
Yep. But no, I'll get to it. If it's the trailers that I've seen and what you've been telling me are any indicator, it sounds like this is what Origins bringing to the table. Assuming they're going to make more, I don't know.
Well, if there's still the one storyline in City that they have to kind of talk about.
Which one was it?
I forget the guy's name, but it was the one you had to find the hidden symbols, and then he showed up and was like, "This is what's going to happen in the future."
Oh, like
I can't remember his name.
Was it Moon Knight or something like that, or it was like that from that organization. I remember.
Yeah.
I know who you mean.
Anyway, got a little sidetracked there. The last thing I really want to talk about are the gadgets in this game. The gadgets are the staple of Batman. The gadgets in this game are no different. They're awesome. Other than I have one issue with one item, and that is the shot gauntlets. They are pretty much the I win button of this game. If you use them, you pretty much, after you get a certain combo amount, which isn't that high, you pretty much just punch things no matter what type they are, and it hits. You don't have to worry about anything else. You just go boom, 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 boom. You don't have to worry about being countered or somebody, doing something weird, or like if they have a stun baton, it goes straight through them. If they have a shield, it goes straight through that. It is really an I win button, and that's the one gadget I have issues with because it took a lot of the fun out of the free flow for me, versus having to figure out like the best way to deal with each type of enemy. Otherwise, once again, gadgets are fun. Impressions?
Well, I mean, there always kind of was an I win button. As far as the combo, if you could build your combo enough, you pretty much had a takedown. You could grab them and take them down.
Right, but you only got that one. This is you can do it all the time.
Okay. Again, that alludes to the he's inexperienced. Give him a little leeway. Let him rely on his gadgets a little more. I think that's kind of really how I interpret that kind of thing. But it's not a huge deal to me.
Other than that,
if you really have a problem with it, don't use the weapon.
Yeah. Other gadgets you thought, or what do you think about the other gadgets?
They're all the same for the most part. The explosions, which is just more for investigative stuff. Batarang, Batclaw, smoke pellets, they're all the same.
Okay, and the last thing I know I said that was the last thing, but this is really kind of just want to touch on this is the detective mode, which has always been kind of the secondary kind of thing for some of the stuff you did in Batman. It's a lot more prominent in this game, and I like it. It's a little bit more than in like cities and even Asylum. So, and it works. I like detective mode. I thought it's always kind of one thing that when people think of Batman, they don't remember that he's a detective. That's what he does. He doesn't just kick ass. He's also one of the smartest people on the planet.
Yeah, it's I like that it's they adapted it to first person. You can literally reconstruct the crime scene, and I like that it's not as reliant on the whole the X-ray vision mode that you get in the first two as well. Because why would you ever turn that off?
Yep.
So yeah, it lets you kind of enjoy the graphics a little better too. So.
All right, so with that, let's get into our rating. So here at Rule of 3, we don't use a point system because I just don't feel like doing that. And today we use a buy, rent, pass system. A buy means we think it's worth the full price of the game on release, whether it's 60, 50, 40, 20, whatever the publisher asked on release. They deserve that money. You should go buy this game. It's just that fun, amazing, and, it's enjoyable. A rent is twofold. We thought the game was okay. We enjoyed our time with it, but, not the greatest. Wait for it to go half off on sale or buy a used copy or rent it from Gamefly, Redbox, Blockbuster, whatever you have near you. But it's just not quite to that, full price of paying for it. And then pass means, it needs to be destroyed somehow, just never seen again. You can go first this time, impressions. What do you give Batman?
I do give it a buy. I personally just haven't because I don't have the money, but it is worth owning. I like this. I like the whole series. I like pretty much like the execution for it all, and overall just a very solid, well done game and very deserving of the Batman title, really. So
all right. I also give Batman a buy. I do have, like I said, I do have little nitpicky things with some of it, but on the whole, it is a very yeah. This is a very, very solid game. I think it's the weakest of the Batman Arkham games, but it's still a very, very solid entry, and it is very enjoyable. And it, like I said, the way that Joker and Batman work in this game is very interesting. And I gotta give once again, I applaud Troy Baker for taking over the role. I thought he did a really good job. So there you have it. You have 2 buys for Batman. So still one of the better franchises for Batman, and they need to do more. Next week, I believe, is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments below. I always enjoy reading those and commenting back when I get a chance. Like us on Facebook and Twitter, all that good stuff. And that's it. So we'll see you next week. And always remember to trust in the Rule of 3.